Hey there everyone, how's it going? Welcome to another video. I'm Wyatt.
And I'm Emmett. And I think it's safe to say that everyone's pretty sufficiently excited for the Batman. If you're not, just go watch the trailer again.
From your secret friend.
So with any major Batman project being announced, or even without one being announced, people are just always going to be fan casting these things.
Always,
Yeah.
Till the end of time.
But specifically, since the Joker has not yet been officially cast in the Reevesy world, that's what's on everybody's mind. Where everyone's shouting out their picks online, and we've had some discussions regarding them. Some of them are good, like I think anyone would agree, like Willem Dafoe. Yeah, that's an obvious choice that
of course he could.
would work. Though I personally still feel like I'd need to see the specific direction you were taking him to see if it would work with Robert Pattinson's Batman.
Of course. Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest points I want to make. Direction is everything. You can have an actor who's really good, but if you don't have the correct vision of how they would portray the Joker, then I guess great acting needs great directing, basically. Or you need to know what you're doing still.
And at this point, if you're gonna bring another version of the Joker to the big screen, like, what you need to focus on is a fresh new take.
You can't go into it half-assed.
Yeah, that he's been done so often now. Like, what do you have that's new? They're asking what is new.
And then sometimes I wouldn't say that I've seen like specific bad ideas. Just there are sometimes names put
I've
out
seen bad ideas
that cause me to think I could do better. Which is what we're doing now. I have procured a list of my personal top 5 from our conversations.
with some feedback from me.
Yeah.
And I think there's at least a couple choices.
Yeah. Like it's 3 that
planted in your brain.
3 that I kind of came up with more myself, and then 2 that you mentioned, and then I'm like, oh, okay.
I was like, hey! You're like, oh.
And not only that, but I took it upon myself to write up my specific pitch for how these actors would portray the role, as well as preparing concept art for each of the actors as the Joker. Now keep in mind that I'm not a professional artist, and this is the first time that I've done this, so take that as you will. But I think it turned out fairly well.
Alright, let's find out.
So yeah, how it'll work is I will say who the actor is, and what I've seen them in, and what made me think of him for the role. Then I'll read my official pitch, and I shall reveal the artwork, because he has not seen them yet.
I'm excited for that.
So first up, I have Jimmy Simpson. He's most iconic to me in Psych.
As he should be for everyone else, if you ask me. Like, you're doing things right if you hear his name and Psych's the first thing that comes.
And for those of you who don't know the show, he's playing a character in a semi-recurring role who's obsessed with a serial killer, like analyzing the serial killer. He's the world's leading expert, to the point where you start to wonder, okay, maybe he's actually the killer, and he's just super egotistical. Or maybe he's like a copycat or something like that, because he's like kind of so enamored by it.
Mary, you seem disturbed even more so than usual. I'm almost afraid to ask, but why don't you tell us what's really on your mind?
I'm assuming you read this.
Do you remember what I was described as?
Laughing on the outside, crying on the inside, the fastidious wrinkle in the brow of Psyche.
True, but she also said you had skin of pure cocoa velvetiness.
She also said she would like to use that skin to make children's dolls.
I'd buy that doll.
A belated welcome to you, and forever goodbye.
Don't go, Sean. You will regret it.
Good luck at the Creepy Arm Grab Awards this year, Mary. I think you have a real shot at winning.
He's good at walking that line between being really weird, but kind of endearing in a weird way.
Now cut the crap, Mary! Start talking! Didn't you see at the bus stop? It was him. I tried to stop him. I tried, but it was too late. He was wearing a very stylish fedora.
Yeah, we know. He got off to the next stop. We must have missed him by a matter of seconds.
Of course you did. You knew exactly how much time it would take. Probably rehearsed it 100 times.
You totally manhandled me. I dropped my shoe.
But he also can play very more understated roles.
Oh, sure are you?
At least an 8. Last time I saw this face was July 4th, 1969. I am very sure that's the man who shot me.
He was in Westworld.
Yeah, he was one of the major players there. And quite good. I might add.
Yeah, because I do think he's a good actor.
Oh, yeah.
He's settled into the kind of comedic unhinged type. So, even though I want there to be an allowance for some variation with how the Joker and Batman are portrayed, I do like the one bad day theory. Basically, Joker thinks anyone could be like him, and all it takes is one bad day. That's why I'm not as crazy about portraying him as having an actual mental condition, because it kind of throws that out the window. So, leaning in the other direction of that, I want this portrayal to focus on him as a performer, or an entertainer. When he's alone or in private conversations, he's calm and collected and has a more understated performance, but then when he goes out to entertain, or eventually do battle, he dons the war paint. It's a semi-origin story paired with a younger Batman. If you do the usual showing Batman struggle with his mask, such as, am I Bruce dressed up as Batman, or am I Batman disguised as Bruce, it would be interesting to do the same thing with the Joker, but have them end up on opposite sides of the spectrum. While Batman finds balance, Joker eventually drives himself more and more crazy as he gets lost into the persona he's made. Eventually he forgets his alter ego and is completely consumed by the Joker.
I like that, like the right way and the wrong way that you can end up on the spectrum. Oh, okay. See, I took one look at that, and I'm just like, that sounds right to me. I might add, he has just a passing resemblance to Jared Leto's Joker, actually.
A little bit, yeah. Like,
did you look at that any while you put this together?
I avoid footage of Jared Leto's Joker like the plague.
As should we all.
But there were a couple of instances where I ended up thinking, that is similar, but like the thing that bugs me so much about Jared Leto's Joker is that like, there are ideas that I like the idea of him almost being a little more like punk gangster, but then
just you never go full punk gangster.
Yeah, it's so
au
there.
contraire, my little fish stick. See, yeah. Alright, I'd chalk that one up there as a win.
Definitely a buy.
Do you see his take channeling at all his iconic performance from Herbie Fully Loaded?
I almost forgot to mention that. I would have been so sad. That's an example of comedically unhinged. That's like the perfect example.
But then also almost completely wasted too.
Yeah.
He should have actually been a major player.
Okay, if you could rig up a situation where like he's entertaining people, and his plan is to capture Batman and the Batmobile and put it in a demolition derby. What?
That sounds amazing.
If you could pull that off and have it be like a Jokerized version of that scene, either have Batman trying to survive the derby or have him in the Batmobile purposely trying to wreck it himself. That would be kind of amazing.
Okay, so you go up in front of the studio execs. Alright, let me pitch to you my grand vision of the next Batman film. Batman meets Herbie Fully Loaded. I mean, a $300 million deal signed that second.
I've seen 3 movies in my life. Bridge on the River Kwai, Patton, and Herbie Fully Loaded. My girlfriend's kids love it. It's pretty funny.
Okay, so next up, I wanted to think a little more outside the box. Like, what would be a specifically different take on the Joker?
And I highly condone that.
I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce his name, but I'll give it my best shot. Moises Arias. We primarily know as Rico from Hannah Montana, which I'm sure he wants to be remembered for.
I mean, again, just one of the most iconic characters.
Yeah, because I'm convinced the casting people knew what they were doing. They knew that we wouldn't give a crap about Miley, so they filled up the side characters with very charismatic people. Because I was always there for the Rico subplot. That's why I watched that show.
Not Billy Ray Cyrus and his acting chops?
He was entertainingly cheesy, but...
Wait, are you not, at this very second, pitching us a Billy Ray Cyrus Joker? It would be a fresh new take.
Oh boy. Another one of his more prominent roles would be Kings of Summer.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to watch that again, because rewatching clips after I drew the artwork, I was like, oh, this works even better than I realized.
Oh, he's one of the highlights of that slightly underrated film.
I don't trust that old guy.
He has a shadow behind his eyes.
How long have you been standing there?
Hello?
That's not an answer.
Are there any bears in these woods?
Hope so. Bear would feed us for a month.
Perhaps we can disillusion him. A bear who doesn't believe in anything will be easier to bring down.
This kid is in my head.
You need to leave, Sergeant. There's no shame in it.
There is shame in it, but please leave anyway.
Because when he was younger, he was really good at playing, like, the hyper nut job. And then as he got older, he started getting typecast as more of, like, a bully or a thug.
Which is funny.
So if you could take the energy of his youth with the intensity that he usually has now, and marry that together, you could be capable of wonderfully horrid things. So from the start, I knew I was going to lead into more of the grungy anarchist side of Joker, but as I drew it, it really seemed too much like a kid cosplaying as Heath Ledger, so I sought to take it in a different direction. What I decided was, instead of acid bleached, why not acid burnt? To me, this is a Joker who's seen some things. Like, how far can you push the one bad day idea? Going with the more traditional Joker origin of a young man who needs money, so he falls in with a gang. The thing is, he's small and unassuming, and strangely chipper, or at least very calm. That rubs the gang the wrong way because they think he's weak and weird, so as a spiteful test, they beat him up and force him to rob Ace Chemicals. Their killing spree alerts the cops, but more importantly Batman. The rest of the gang can't take the heat, so they ditch him, dumping him into acid so that he can't give them away. The acid gets in his mouth, eating away at his cheeks and gums. He is flushed out the pipes, nearly drowning. He wakes up, alive somehow, though the past is a blur. He laughs at the bitter irony that he now can't even remember why he needed cash. All that he has is the feeling of not being taken seriously, and if that's the case, why should he take anyone else seriously?
Oh boy. That's interesting.
Like I said, it's a slightly different take.
You gotta go different now. See, I look at that and it's different, but it's still the Joker. I can tell what he's supposed to be. So, kind of meth zombie look.
Uh-huh. But then acting like his just completely kind of not quite there comedic performance, but then snapping and being really intense when he needs to.
Yeah, well, once he ends up killing somebody.
Mm-hmm. And so like this, I was imagining it's more like right after the accident when he's just kind of oblivious, like, oh, okay, this is happening now. And then this is more when he's like a trained killer.
Sure. See, that all sounds good to me.
The one thing is that I don't know for sure what it would be like for Batman to go up with like a really short Joker.
Oh,
but you could You could make it.
Just ask Tom Cruise's agents how they get by in any given movie.
Because I was looking for someone who'd be like, not who you would expect to be your big intimidating villain, but who I thought could pull it off. But yeah, next up is one that you thought of, so if you have any insights to your thought process, you can say them.
Oh, cool.
Andrew Garfield.
Oh, yeah. Basically, for me, it comes down to, are they a talented actor? Could they take it in a unique direction? And, I mean, earlier in his career, before he was cast as, like, the charming leading man and, like, Spider-Man and all that, but, I mean, everyone remembers him from Social Network, where he does play a character that just gets more and more unhinged as it goes along.
You did it. I knew you did it. You planted that story about the chicken. I didn't plant the story about the chicken.
What's he talking
You
about?
had me accused of animal cruelty.
Seriously, what the hell's the chicken?
And I'll bet what you hated the most is that they identified me as a co-founder of Facebook, which I am. You better lawyer up, asshole, because I'm not coming back for 30%. I'm coming back for everything.
Here's your $19,000. I wouldn't cash it, though. I drew it on the account you froze.
I like sitting next to you, Sean. Makes me look so tough.
Then lately, he's kind of branched out and done a few indie roles, like this film I had never heard of, and I would have never paid any attention to if he wasn't in it, Mainstream, where it looks surprisingly similar to something like Joker. He just comes across as completely unhinged in his performance and doing it very well too.
Even though the movie looked like a mess.
Oh yeah, that he looked like the one thing keeping it from just being a garbage fire. Also, whenever I think of, okay, can they play the Joker? I mean, there's two main things you need. Can they smile and can they laugh? A lot of actors, like, you'll just have to see if they can do a good take on the Joker laugh, but at this point, like, he's got a semi-iconic smile. Like, he's got a big, like, giant recognizable smile in anything he's in, and especially seeing clips from that movie, I'm like, that I just feel, since he's easily got the talent to pull it off, that I'd be really interested to see what a more nice guy kind of actor could do in that role.
And rewatching clips from Amazing Spider-Man was just reminding me how mixed I am on I guess the snark levels in that movie. Because I've seen fan reactions that say it's comic book accurate, but to me, I just don't know what to think when I'm watching a Spider-Man movie, but the performance suddenly makes a lot more sense when I start thinking of him as the Joker.
You know, in the future, if you're gonna steal cars, don't dress like a car thief, man.
What are you? You a cop?
Really? You seriously think I'm a cop? Cop in a skin-tight red and blue suit. You know, you're you got a mind of a true scholar, sir. I was going more for one of the guys who do the luge. Good thinking, good thinking. Use the window. Get out the window. There you go, you got it. Whoa.
Just let me go.
Is that a knife? Is that a real knife?
Yes, it's a real knife.
My weakness, it's small knives.
Just let me go.
Anything but knives! Oh, it's so simple. That was cool. Man.
What the hell is this?
Webbing that I developed myself. I don't think you really want to know.
Come
right
on,
now.
let me go.
One second.
Knock it off, man. No. Come on, let me go. Stop it. Dude, that isn't funny.
It is
Come
kind
on,
of funny,
help.
You know who the Spider-Man actor's reminding me of? The Joker. That's how it should be, right?
Uh-huh. So, for Andrew Garfield as the Joker. This one will lean towards the Telltale Games side of things, where he's basically just Smeagol, or a role reversal of the Peter Parker Harry dynamic, where he gets to play the friend that slowly kind of goes crazy. Joker knows a lot of bad guys, but no one really sees him as a threat in the beginning, so Batman has to work with him in order to achieve his goal to arrest a bigger villain. As they journey together, Bruce starts to like or at least pity him. Bruce is wary of him, after all he does seem a little bit off, nevertheless they become unlikely friends. But then there comes a point where Bruce has to betray him to finish the mission, and that makes Joker snap. Bruce realizes too late the effect he had, now his friend has turned foe and there's no undoing the damage.
And then he's one that is closer to Pattinson on the age scale, so like I could see him fitting quite well there. See, there it is. See, I think that looks really good.
And yeah, and this one I wanted to talk a little bit more about the process, because
please.
It took me a long time to find the right pictures, because the picture that the body came from was originally the main one I was going to be using, because he had a different face and was kind of holding his hands up and holding a microphone, but I just couldn't. There were too many things in the way that I felt like I was having to paint out, and it wasn't really working, and because I wanted to try and make his smile a little different, because he wasn't quite smiling in that picture, and it didn't end up feeling right. It felt like too much work, until most of these actually, I took the body of one picture and the head of another picture and combined them.
Yeah.
So the head is one, the body is another one, and then the hands holding the camera were just a stock photo that I all cropped out and painted over.
I mean, it all looks good.
Yeah. And a lot of these, but specifically that one and the last one that we'll talk about, I imagine it's maybe being set up in one movie and kind of ending with a reveal that, oh wait, he's out there, and then having that's the second movie in the trilogy, and then the third movie is all about now he's fully fledged Joker.
And see, that would be a fresher way to take it, instead of just, now it's the Joker show, that actually having a natural build up to it. And these days, if you're gonna be making a trilogy, you need the right build up, so by the third movie it's okay, we really care, we're really invested. If it takes till your third Batman movie to now the Joker's here,
it would make it feel more like the climax,
the event. Yeah.
And I just like the idea of letting the first couple movies
breathe on their own
and introduce some different villains.
Please. That's the thing. Me personally, I'd rather see what they could do with more under the radar villain and casting choices, but it's inevitable. People really like the Joker. The studios are gonna want the Joker to make an appearance. So if it's gonna happen, just what can we do to make it work out really, really well? Again, since they've already done so many times.
So yeah, the next actor up is Michael Sheen. I don't know anything about the show that they're in together, but anytime that people say David Tennant, I just think, wouldn't Michael Sheen make a lot more sense? To me, he's probably the closest that you could get to recreating kind of like the Arkham Hamill Joker atmosphere.
Where is it?
Manners cost nothing, Batman. A please wouldn't go amiss. I mean, if you wanted to be cured so badly, you only had to ask. It looks like I need to teach you some respect.
There's nothing you can teach me, Joker.
Oh, come on. There's always something to learn. Let's start with getting your ass kicked 101.
Okay, the first thing I saw him in was Tron Legacy. And at the time, I thought that was like a really weird, somewhat off-putting performance. But now that I'm more familiar with him, and I going back to Tron Legacy, I kind of find that amazing. In a sort of Johnny Depp, Willy Wonka sort of way, where it's like, I can't help but appreciate what he's doing.
He knows how to play crazy well.
Yeah.
The game has changed, son of Flynn.
it didn't work with Jared Leto, but you could make it work. Like, the idea of him being in a club doing shady deals, but then Batman comes in to break the party up, so while he's fighting all the goons, the Joker's just standing on his balcony laughing and doing air guitar and shooting random people in the crowd. Like, that's what Joker would do.
Just put Garrett Hedlund in a cowl and you've got Batman and Tron.
Pretty much. The embodiment of the clown prince of crime, this Joker sees himself as royalty. So when Batman grows in public favor, with some hailing him the savior of the city, Joker takes it upon himself to crank up the villainy as well as the charm and amass an army of costumed thugs ready to do battle with the Dark Knight and lay claim to the proverbial throne of Gotham City.
Okay, I like how you've been able to... We're 4 pitches in now, and each one is completely different.
Yeah, that's what I was going for.
Different from each other and different from what we've already gotten, too.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, see, I'm definitely getting the Hamill vibes there.
And because that was just a screenshot from one of the games.
That's what I gathered.
I photoshopped his head on and then kind of painted over it to make it look unified.
And I feel like, especially post-Twilight, he's an actor who hasn't quite been given his due. Like
So right up with Robert Pattinson.
Right?
I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that.
Now we need that just as a full redemption arc.
Uh-huh.
Just, those films are finally gone. Everyone can move on. Just let them die. Kill them if you have to.
Kill them with Batman. What better way of going out? So next up is one that you mentioned, but it's really sunk into my brain.
And that was kind of like a last minute idea too.
Yeah. Kind of not exactly the final nail in the coffin because it was starting something, but like once
the first nail in the coffin,
I guess. Once this name came up, that was when I was like, okay, I have a good list here. I need to do this. And that is Macaulay Culkin, for I feel fairly obvious reasons. Like, everyone makes jokes that Kevin McAllister is a sociopath.
Right. See, follow that trail of thought, and then it's like, of course it takes you to Joker.
Which is what I did. And even though I feel a little bad about just typecasting him as the same character right off the bat, but it works. It really works.
Huh.
Okay, so, it's not just Macaulay Joker, it's Kevin McAllister Joker. Let's say Home Alone plays out a little more realistically, and the 2 robbers die halfway through. Admittedly, it is a little traumatizing, especially for the family, who come home to find Kevin alone with 2 dead bodies. But as Kevin gets older, he tries to go on with his life. But something's missing. The thing is, when the robbers attacked and he got to torment them, he enjoyed it. He always feels a little disappointed that they died halfway through. With that being the most fun he's ever had, growing up just feels dull. The desire to recreate that high eats away at him for decades, until he stumbles upon an abandoned theme park. An idea forms. He begins to booby-trap the place, slowly converting it into his magnum opus of torment. Every now and then, he'll lure people to the carnival to see how long they last. As they are beaten and bludgeoned, the high comes back, but it ends whenever they die. He targets smarter, stronger, and more dangerous people to see who can make it the farthest, but nothing ever fulfills him. At this point, he knows how to stay hidden. He's careful, only does it every now and then, and never leaves evidence behind. Given enough time, it becomes an urban legend that the old carnival is simply haunted. The police don't care because there's no real evidence of crime, but no one who enters leaves alive. For the main portion of the story, Batman is working with the police on what they think is the bigger, better case. But he keeps hearing what is happening at the amusement park, and he starts to investigate, finally entering the gauntlet himself. Joker's enthralled by every second of Batman's performance. He doesn't even care when Batman beats his game and captures him. He laughs, looking forward to round 2.
Kevin McAllister meets Jigsaw is quite the pitch. when I pitched this idea to you, like I was following the whole Robert Downey Jr. redemption story. Like, just because I'm always hoping for the best for everybody. That, like, you see the path that Macaulay's gone down.
And he sure looks a lot better.
Yeah, lately he seems to be turning things around. And I would assume the last thing he would want to do after finally getting out the shadow of Kevin and Home Alone would be to attach himself to just the most iconic villain.
Yeah.
In
that was my only drawback.
So, like,
I think
the likelihood of that happening is very slim, but it's intriguing. It would be the most intriguing.
Let me check something. Yeah, his most recent casting is an American Horror Story. So, I assume
a season that hasn't come out yet?
It says 2021.
Huh.
So,
okay.
I assume he has no problem with jumping back into the more twisted saddle.
Yeah, but yeah, American Horror Story is one thing. Joker and the Batman, where everyone online is going to scrutinize the casting choice, decide whether it's right or wrong.
Although, when I first was putting this list together, I thought there were names that I hadn't really heard of anyone say. But then when I was looking up clips and, like, I was watching, like, an interview that was fairly recent with Macaulay, people in the comments were saying he should play the Joker.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. It's just all down to whether he'd actually be willing. But that's what I'm looking for, like an extremely, like, either unlikely or under the radar actor that you see the casting announcement and it just makes you go, oh!
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you see a lot of ideas these days that I'm just like, yeah, that'd be the safe route or the easy route. And I want something that would surprise me as much as Heath Ledger's being as successful as it was. And as insane, like, just the whole legacy of The Dark Knight still, like, hasn't been topped. Like, just kind of in shock value that's actually how it happened.
But okay, that is my top 5 Joker casting with the specific direction that I would take them.
That's quite the lineup, too.
Yeah, I feel proud, especially having put this together in 3 days.
And like, having only used the software for like a week.
Pretty much.
Did you have any runner-ups that
I did have some
that piqued your interest?
Ones that we've mentioned before, but like, you really want Walton Goggins.
I desperately want Walton Goggins. You take one look at the man, he's got the laugh down, he's got the smile down. Joker seems like an exceptionally greasy person. I get that with Walton Goggins' most iconic roles. Like, just watch Justified. If you haven't, it'll just make you feel better.
Most of the time, I feel like I don't want just repeat performances. Like, I've seen people say Bill Skarsgård, and I'm like, he's already been Pennywise. He doesn't need to be Joker.
Like, I'm convinced he could do it, but yeah, he already got one shot at a crazy clown.
Mm-hmm. But I do think that Nicholas Hoult just repeating his Fury Road performance wouldn't be bad.
It wouldn't, no. And it's funny that he was apparently, like, gonna be the runner-up for Batman if Pattinson wasn't. That it was apparently down to those two.
That is interesting. It'd be like a Cillian Murphy being the runner-up for
ain't that weird?
Being runner-up for Christian Bale, and then they're like, hey, why don't you beat Scarecrow instead? And then Oliver Jackson Cohen, I think, would be an interesting choice.
Just a guy I want to see more of.
Because yeah, he was fantastic in Haunting of Hill House, and then
great at playing a tortured soul.
Mm-hmm. And then kind of wasted as the creepy villain in Invisible Man.
He was the creepy villain in Bly Manor, in the half I watched of that.
But yeah, which one do you think would be your favorite?
See, just the most intriguing is still the Macaulay one.
Mm-hmm. That's why I saved him for last, because I was kind of feeling like that.
But you've sold me on all of them. I'd have to ruminate not just which actor, but which of your pitches too I'd most prefer. Because, I mean, honestly, I'd like to see all of those because they're very interesting new places to take this.
But yeah, something about the idea of bringing in Joker's Funland with
which
Macaulay's.
we've never really seen.
And the idea of like having the entire movie be about a different case, but in the background you keep hearing, oh, people keep disappearing at this carnival. People keep dying. It's haunted. But then basically building up to the climax being Home Alone meets Last Crusade meets Jaws, where Batman is like, okay, I'm finally gonna deal with this, and then goes in there, and then just all the crazy booby traps happen, and then
how Batman himself would react to that and get past it,
and that he'd be the only one that would get past all the booby traps and reach the end, and then seeing Macaulay Joker is like the reward, and that's how the movie ends, basically. Like, that would be really amazing.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah,
man.
But then I also really like the idea of Michael Sheen almost following like the Raid formula, where the smaller one
See, that's all you gotta say.
The first movie is a little bit smaller, but still intense. Yeah, more straightforward. And then the second one picks up right where it leaves off, but then just goes, like, dials it up to 11 and has it be like a complete, like, literal war between Joker and the Batman. Like I said, where he considers himself literally the Prince of Crime. Has to challenge Batman's reign. This is all beautiful to me.
I feel like it's Christmas morning and I just opened up all my lovely presents. Except it's only a picture of my presents, and I have to wait to see if my presents actually morph into existence or not.
So I guess, which one's your favorite?
Ooh.
I'd be very curious to see comments of what people think.
We need both. Your favorite of the 5, if there's one you're really sold on, and even if there's one you're not. And then, well, what's your own personal? Because, I mean, I've said it to you before. I could pretty much be happy with anybody as long as they do the job of selling me on why they would be a good Joker.
That's why this whole thing has been about the actor and the pitch, because the pitch is very important.
The whole pictures. Well, that was fun.
Yes, it was lots of fun to draw up and prepare, and so I'm glad that it was fun for you.
And let us know if you want to see more recasting videos like this, talking about something else, talking about movies. Feedback is always appreciated.
Because, this one just kind of fell into place, but I would be curious to see, like, with different ideas.
Sure.
What develops over time.
That's all we want to do, just talk about movies and the idea of movies and potential of movies. Always potential.
Yeah. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you later.
Yeah, see ya.
I don't know if we really need to watch the full trailer, but I was
what?
Yeah.
Smack those words right out of your mouth, boy. Just one of the best trailers of all time. No big deal.